السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته everyone. أحمد الله رب العالمين حمد عبادي الذاكرين الشاكرين وأصلي وأسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين ثم أما بعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا ونفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما آمين. Allah teach us what will benefit us and benefit us from what you have taught us and increase us in knowledge, Ya Rabbil Ameen. Ayyam al-Ma'dudat, enumerated days. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah, of His hikam is that this book, if you were to read it, I'll give a very hypothetical example. If you were to read it every day, the whole book, you'd finish it in one day. For the rest of your life, every single day, you will always find new lessons. And so please do not be bored when we repeat the verses of Ramadan in Ramadan. If I asked you what is the reason for Ramadan, how did Allah give us the objective of Ramadan? What would you say? The final target, the final aim of Ramadan. What is the final aim of Ramadan?
Purify the soul.
Purify the soul. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Yes? Anything else?
To kill the desires.
To kill the desires. What else?
To remove your previous sins.
Remove your previous sins. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us a threefold equation. He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Number one. أيام معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخرى وعلى الذين يطيقون فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خير فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. Here's number two. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. It was the month of Ramadan in which the recital was given. It was sent down as a guidance for mankind, an evident explanation. Whoever witnesses the month, he shall fast. Whoever is sick or on a journey, they must fast a period of other days. Allah wants ease for you, He does not want difficulty for you. And that you should complete the period, and that you should glorify Allah for having guided you, and so that you may give thanks. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So the first is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The second is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And then the third, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. That maybe they will become prudent. Now, Rashad is very difficult to translate into English because it has several translations, but of its meanings is to be on the correct, best, straight path. Basically, ihsan, excellence. And Allah in Surah Al-Rahman, He says, وَهَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. And is the reward of being excellent nothing than being excellent? There are two tafsirs for this. That because Allah was excellent to us by giving us life in the first place and allowing us to go to an eternal heaven if we were to worship Him correctly, then we should be excellent in how we meet His bounty upon us. That's the first tafsir. But the second tafsir is, if you are excellent in this life, Allah has no other way to treat you but to be excellent to you in the next life. So if you look at these three goals, the scholars say they are in parallel with the dua that we need to say after every single prayer. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to Mu'adh, I will teach you a dua, I will teach you a dua, do not leave one single prayer except that you say this dua after your prayer. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrak wa shukrak wa husna ibadatik. Allah help me to remember you, to be grateful for you, and to be excellent in how I worship you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. God consciousness is the epitome of dhikr. That's why when Allah started Surah Al-Baqarah, He started it with people who have taqwa. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is a guidance for those who have taqwa. That is the highest level of dhikr, that you always think of Allah in every single step you take, or do not take, or you're about to take. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, that you may be grateful to Allah. It coincides with the second of that dua. help me be excellent in how I thank you and how I'm grateful to you. And then the third, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. The perfect straight path is for you to have rushd towards Allah. Is to be on Allah's path. In that way, you can be excellent in your worship to Allah. Type. Someone might ask, beautiful. 3 main objectives of Ramadan, we usually used to think it's only about taqwa. Now we know it. We have 3 main domains. What does this have to do with the 10 days? It has everything to do with the 10 days. You see, the epitome of the whole year, the 360 days we have, is Ramadan. And the epitome of Ramadan are the 10 days. And the epitome of the 10 days are Laylatul Qadr. And the epitome, if you want the best of 10 days, they are the 10 days of the Hijjah. But the 10 nights are the 10 nights of Ramadan. It's another discussion, we can have it another time. But in general, yani. We want to speak briefly best about the merits of the 10 days of the last 10 nights and also i'tikaf, or staying in the masjid. And then we can move on to how do we make on the best of the 10 days. Our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when the 10 days used to come of the last 10 days of Ramadan, he used to wake up the whole night. And he used to pray the whole night. And he used to wake up his family. He used to make sure that they are awake to pray. When they would sleep, when they would nod off, he would make sure that they are praying. And he would bring his strength all together and he would tie the rope around his belt. It's an analogy for that it's like when you're getting into a grapple with someone, you make sure that everything is fitting, nothing's going to fall. And he's getting ready for the 10 days to do his best. In Ramadan, generally, we know the Prophet ﷺ used to sometimes sleep in the night in the first 20 days. It's very normal. He would sleep and get up, sleep and get up. But in these 10 days, no. He would do his best to not sleep. That doesn't mean you don't have to sleep if you have work or you have studies. You know your balance. You know the best that you can do. But you need to do your best to make the best of these 10 nights. She also said, radiallahu anha, he used to do in Ramadan what he would not do in the whole year. And he would do in the last 10 nights what he would not do in all of Ramadan. And then I used to ask him, Ya Rasulullah, if I were to live to the last 10 nights, and if I were to see Laylatul Qadr, what should I say? He would tell her, say, Allahumma innaka afuwwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. You are a forbearing Lord. You love to be forbearing. And so, be forbearing towards me. Forbearing, it basically means that Allah pardons you. You are a pardoning Lord. You love to pardon, so be pardoning towards me. Pardoning, when you come on Judgment Day, the sin that you made, it's not even in the trash bin of the hard disk. It's not even there. It's been shift deleted and it's over and done with. There are no traces for it. Have you ever lost a file and you've tried to retrieve the file and you've called Microsoft or Apple or Google or whatever and you've tried to retrieve the file, you spent 5 days and then they raise the ticket and then they call you after 2 weeks and they say, sorry, there's no trace for the file whatsoever? Oh, there's no trace for the file whatsoever. It's better than having a file there and Allah reprimanding you for it. Now, i'tikaf, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, we have 2 verses that give us evidence for i'tikaf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنْ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. Do not come near to your spouses when you are staying or you are stationary in the masajid. Hamukullah. And the second is, وَأَنْ طَهِّرَ بَيْتِيَ لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. When he gave the order to Sayyidina Ibrahim, make my house pure for the ta'ifin, for those who circumambulate, وَالْعَاكِفِينَ, and those who are stationary in the mosque, or those who are staying in the mosque, or those who live in the mosque, depending on which tafsir you take. So people who live basically in Mecca, or people who are there doing i'tikaf. وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ, and those who are doing prostration, or those who are doing sujood. Now, i'tikaf is for everyone, it can be for both men and women, but it is more of a beneficiary for men, but it's still a sunnah for women as well. Reason being is because it's a very tough task sometimes to sleep on the floor and this and that. The Prophet ﷺ, he would stay in the mosque, he would not leave except if he needed to go to the bathroom or he needed to shower. Obviously in those 10 nights, there would be no spousal relationship. He would sometimes put his head inside one of his houses because his houses were stuck to the mosque wall. So he would put his head inside the window, and Sayyidah Aisha would clean his head with water and some sort of oil, and then she would brush and comb it for him. To that extent, he would not leave the mosque. That is the importance of staying stationary in i'tikaf. Now all of us don't have the opportunity to do i'tikaf for 10 days straight. Some of us don't even have the opportunity to go to a certain mosque to do i'tikaf. That's not my point. My point is, now that we can come to the goals of these 10 days, is that we need to have a mentality of i'tikaf regardless of whether we have full access to i'tikaf or not. We need to make sure that we are able to bring about the change that i'tikaf can bring to us regardless of whether, again, we have access to a mosque and all of these facilities or we do not. When I say that, the main thing you need to do is the Quran. In Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very generous to us in Ramadan. He closes the gates of hell, opens the gates of heaven. What does that mean? It means that He makes sins hard for you to do. It's taqeel ala nafs. Your nafs feels like it's hard to do a sin. And it becomes easy for you to do a good deed. That's what it means by فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابِ الْجَنَّةِ وَغُلِّقَتْ أَبْوَابِ. It doesn't mean that if you die, automatically you go to heaven because the gates are open and the gates of hell are closed. No, it means it becomes very easy for you to do the things that will take you to heaven. Allah is very generous. He multiplies our rewards in Ramadan. He multiplies our rewards on Laylatul Qadr. And the scholars say, because Allah is like that, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to match the generosity as much as he could, so he used to be as generous as he could in Ramadan. Generous with his time, generous with his effort, generous with his smiles, generous with his advice, generous with feeding the poor, generous with giving money, generous to his wives, generous to his stepchildren. The Prophet ﷺ, he had 13 stepchildren. 13 stepchildren. If you read the seerah, they spend very little time with him, but it's not about the amount of time, it's the quality. They are the ones who gave us the hadiths of how he used to point to people. The Prophet ﷺ said, you. He never pointed like this, you. He would say you. He would open his palm, not hatta you. You. Give somebody honor. You over there. They would relate the hadith. They would watch him and get the manners from him. A role model. It's quality, not quantity. So the question is, how are you dealing with the Quran? Now is the time of the Quran. It's not the time of people anymore. To the extent that Imam Malik used to hate giving lessons during the 10 days of i'tikaf. When he was in the mosque, he would not give people lessons. He would not give any kind of lesson. They would ask him why. He said, you have me 365 days of the year. These 10 days, I'm working on myself. You need these 10 days to revise. Revise everything. Revise your relationship with Allah. Revise where you stand with Allah. Revise your values. Revise your principles. Revise, why do you do this, why do you not do that? And the way to do that, the best thing is not to sit down and have the little Buddha position. That's not what I'm talking about. It's to have a strong relationship with the Quran. You read and you ponder and you read tafsir. And please don't go into the competitions of, I read 5 juz a day and 6 juz a day. Have a minimum, that's fine. But you need to understand what you are reading. That's how about change comes. The scholars give 5 main ways for you to change in the 10 days. The first is you need to change your personal beliefs. You need to change your personal beliefs. How can you change your personal beliefs if you don't live with the book that came to change our beliefs in the first place? By the way, the Sahaba were people just like us, and they were very straightforward. The Sahabi who lost his eye in the battle, the Sahaba told him, move on. He said, no. I'm going to take the eye that fell out of my head socket and my eye socket. I'm going to take it to the Prophet and I'm going to ask him to put it back in my head. He went to the Prophet and he told him, Ya Rasulullah, help me put it back in my head. He told him, why don't you want to be patient and Allah will give you? He said, he was very transparent. This is Sahabi, he's fighting in war. He could be a shaheed. He said, I am a person, look, very transparent. I am a person who loves to speak to women. No woman will look at me if I look this horrible. Very transparent. Very transparent. He's a Sahabi and he knows his limits. But the thing is, he knew what his principles are. He knew what his priorities are, despite his weaknesses. This is what the Quran does to people. It makes you acknowledge where your weakness is. It makes you acknowledge what type of person you are, what temperament do you have, what personality type are you, What are your pluses, your minuses? But at the same time, it makes you invest all of that in the way of Allah. The only way you can come to that is through the book of Allah. Number 2, your hobbies and your interests. Again, the Quran, subhanAllah, it is the word of Allah. It makes you change how you think about what your interests should be. The other day I came into the mosque. Despite all of my sins and despite all of our sins, but subhanAllah, I came into the mosque and I saw a brother, he was sitting next to me. We prayed sunnah, we prayed fard, we prayed the sunnah. We had a power nap, we got up, we read Quran, and the brother was still on his social media all the time. I don't blame him. I blame whoever taught him the Quran, that they did not teach him to read the Quran with a zeal to change what his interests are. When you read the Quran, you become bored with certain things that people take as a granted every day. Social media and silly gatherings and silly talk and small talk, it becomes frivolous to you. You have bigger things you want. They say small minds talk about people. And medium minds talk about the news. And big minds talk about ideas. The Quran changes what you think about. The more you read it and the more you ponder it, the more you understand the tafsir of it. It changes everything about you. Third, your skills and your capabilities. In these 10 days, please invest your time into a new skill. You tell me how, ya akhi, and I'm sitting at home or I'm sitting in the mosque, I'm away from people. I turned off my WhatsApp notifications, I turned off my messenger notifications, and I'm one with the Quran. How can I develop any skills? You're human. You're going to need a break. Watch a program by a scholar, whoever it is by. You want to listen to someone who's Arab, someone who doesn't speak, who speaks English, someone who speaks. I don't care what they speak, but I care that you find a program that brings about change. And I know someone who changed their life because they just watched a series by Nouman Ali Khan that came out 4 years ago about Surah Al-A'la, Surah Al-Masad, Surah Al-Kafirun. It was done in tafsir over 3 days. It changed their life from A to Z. Because they listened to it built a new skill for them. And they said bluntly, the skill it built for me was perseverance, no matter what the state I'm in, no matter what the people I'm facing, no matter what the country I'm in. It made me understand what it means to be a perseverant mu'min. Mu'min sabr. It changed him, it developed a skill for him. Watch a program that develops your prayer. A program that develops how you ponder the Quran. And if you want links, just ask. We'll provide the links, but just ask. You want them in English, we'll provide them. There are millions of playlists out there. Just ask. You want to develop your skill of understanding Allah, of speaking to Allah. Ask. We'll send a playlist about the best of du'as. A playlist about the names of Allah, understanding the names of Allah. Not the names, one name in 10 minutes. One name in 3 hours. You study it over 3 days to understand the true name of one name of Allah. The fourth is your relationships. At this stage, in those 10 days, the seclusion you have, the time away you have from people, will give you the chance to reevaluate your relationships. Some relationships, some people, they should be in the circle of acquaintances. Good morning, assalamu alaikum, goodbye. Shukran, that's it. Some people, they need to be in the circle of closer. They're closer to you. Your work colleagues, your neighbors. Some people, they need to be closer. Family members, siblings. Some people, they are their direct circle of effect. وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. And warn the people who are closest to you. وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاسْتَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. And order your family to pray. Help them to pray. وَاسْتَبِرْ, not وَاسْبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. And not be patient. Be overly and persistently patient with them establishing the prayer in their life. There are people who, they are the closest to you. Reevaluate who these people are in your life. Because believe me, brothers and sisters, sometimes we take it for granted that just because this person is my brother by blood, it makes them closer to me than the other person who is my friend in the ISOC. Well, actually, that friend you have in the ISOC will be the key for you going to heaven, and your blood brother may be the key for you going to hell. I'm not saying throw away your blood brother, but I'm saying be very careful how you evaluate your relationships. You have 10 days, you have a gap in your head. Stay away from people. Reevaluate things. And the fifth, you need to have proper mentors and role models. شوفوا, one thing, if somebody can tell me, ask me, what is the one thing that if you look back and say, Alhamdulillah, 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 if I ever went astray, it's because I lost this. And if I ever came back to the path, it was because of this. And I will tell you simply, it's the company I kept. And the company I tried to keep were mentors and role models from all over the world. I don't care what their nationality is. I don't care what their language is. To me, it's basically where you landed with a parachute. Someone landed in Pakistan, someone landed in the US, someone landed in Saudi Arabia, someone landed in Egypt. To me, I don't care where they come from. All what I care about is, what do they bring to the floor of Islam? Bas. These are the people that, some of them now are detained in whichever country they come from, just because they say the haqq. These are the people that brought guidance. You need to have a mentor. Choose who your mentor is. Choose. Watch them, watch their akhlaq, watch how they talk about Allah, watch their resistance, watch their resilience, watch their passion towards Allah, and learn from that. And when you see that, and then you read the Quran, and then you hear about the Sahaba, then you will understand what the Quran is about. When the Prophet ﷺ, they had a battle, and then the kuffar lost, the kuffar of Quraysh lost. He took the opinion of Umar and Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Abu Bakr. He asked them, what should I do with them? Abu Bakr told him, Ya Rasulullah, innahum al-ashira wa akhul ashira. Fa'fu anhum. They are our brothers and they are the sons of our brothers. Forgive them. They're all our cousins. It's over. We won. It's okay. Let them go. He asked Umar, what should I do? He said, Ya Rasulullah, wallahi law kanu fi makanin laqatilun aqtulhum. If they were in our place, they would have killed us. Kill them. The Prophet ﷺ, he laughed. He said, مثلك يا أبو بكر كمثل عيسى قال إن تعذبهم فإنهم عبادك وإن تغفر لهم فإنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. Your example is like Jesus. He said, if you punish them, they are your slaves. And if you forgive them, you are the Aziz the Hakim, the all-wise, the all glory is to you. And your example, Abu Bakr, is like Sayyidina Ibrahim. قال فمن تبعني فإنهم مني ومن عصاني فإنك غفور رحيم. Whoever follows me of them, they are of me. And whoever is disobedient towards me, I'm the Prophet, and whoever is disobedient towards me, you are the most forgiving. He said, ومثلك يا عمر كمثل موسى كمثل نوح إذ قال رب لا تضع الأرض من الكافرين ديارا إنك إن تذرهم يضلوا عبادك ولا يلد إلا فاجرا كفارا. He said, and you are like Nuh. He said, Rabbi, do not leave one single person on this earth as a kafir. If you leave them, they will not leave a single person until they make them a kafir like them. This is after 950 years. Mish every person you find a kafir, you say, Rabbi, take him. This is after 950 years of dawah, he said this. He said, وَمَثَلَكَ يَا أَبُو بَكْرَ كَمَثَلِ مُوسَى إِذْ قَالَ رَبِّ اطْمِسْ عَلَى أَمْوَالِهِمْ وَاشْدُدْ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ فَلَا يُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى يَرَوْا الْعَذَابَ الْعَلِيمَ. Rabbi, take away their fortune and close over their hearts so they will not believe until they see the punishment in front of their eyes. But he told them this because he knows these prophets. He knows what they are like. They were role models to him. كَذَلِكَ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَنْبَاءِ مَا قَدْ سَبَقَ. We tell you the stories of these prophets. كَذَلِكَ نُثَبِّتَ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. To bring your heart to be stable. When you read about these role models, and when you see people who follow in their footsteps, you will have a way, a path to go towards. So again, brothers and sisters, 1, change your personal beliefs through the Quran. 2, change your hobbies and interests through building a relationship with the Quran. 3, develop a skill and a capability. Learn about either the names of Allah, either about how to ponder the Quran, learn about a certain surah, a certain juz, why is it there? Learn something in the Quran that makes you, about the importance of dhikr in the Quran, the different types of, the meanings of dhikr in the Quran, throughout the Quran, the different meanings of deen in the Quran. 4, your relationships. And 5, you need to have a mentor and a role model. All of this you can do in your 10 days of seclusion. This is what you need to do. And always remember, these are very enumerated days. Allah has given us a day in it, a night worth 83 nights minimum. It's not worth 83 nights. It's worth 83 nights minimum. If Allah multiplies it by 10, it's more than that. If He multiplies it by 700, it's more than that. And don't target that. Don't say the odd night is 21, 23, 25, 27. There's a Sahih hadith, it comes in the odd nights. This Sahih hadith, it comes in the odd nights. And there's a Sahih hadith, it comes in the last 10 nights. You really want to aim and lose out 50% chance that you will get the Laylatul Qadr. Don't aim. Show Allah that you want to do your best, so that He will give you His best. Sayyidina Ali says, all of slaves are 3 types. Abid, Tujjar, wa Ahrar. All of slaves are 3 types. The first type is a slave. They only worship Allah because they are afraid of Allah. Slave. Afraid of Allah. Bas. The second type is Tujjar, traders. I'm going to read 1 juz because Hasna is worth, one letter is worth 10, and 10 times 10 times 700 times 250 letters a page times 20. تاجر, trader. Pure transaction, مش ممكن يعني. Pure transactions. And the third, أحرار, free. عبدوا الله لأنهم أحبوا. They worshipped Allah because they loved Allah. They knew the reality of, they lived in, if I were given the choice to be judged on Judgment Day by my mother, wallah, my father, wallah, Allah, I will always choose Allah. They understood the rahmah of Allah. They understood it. They will be in the hospital suffering from whatever disease they're suffering from, terminal disease, and they will still tell you, I want Allah to judge me, not my family, because they love Allah. This is what Sayyidina Ali says. So you show what best you have. Brothers, any number over infinity is worth what? Any number. 0. However long you live over the infinity that's waiting for you is 0. But you have 10 days. Believe me, it's not much. Do the best you can to transform yourself. Come out of Ramadan a transformed person. I'm not saying be a wali. A wali is who is a wali? ليس الولي من يمشي على الماء ولا من يطير في الهواء ولكن الولي من يعرف الحلال والحرام. بس كده. A wali is not a person who walks on water ولا flies in the air. A wali is a person who knows what is haram, what is halal, takes that and leaves that. Well, this is enough to be a wali. Especially because everything is haram and halal. What you say, how kind you are, everything is haram and halal. May Allah guide us and help us to be of the people who are excellent in these 10 days and to make the best of these 10 days. اللهم يا رب بلغنا ليلة القدر يا رب العالمين. اللهم بلغنا العشر أواخر يا رب العالمين. اللهم يا رب أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم يا رب اجعلنا من الذين يا رب يتقوك والذين يشكروك والذين يبلغون رشدا يا رب العالمين. آمين آمين. وصلي وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you for being patient, and I hope to see you all soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.